Irish Townsend House, New Brighton, PA. Situated along the Beaver River only a small distance north of Pittsburgh, PA, the small suburb of New Brighton holds a slew of history practically hidden in plain sight, yet well known to all locals of the town and the surrounding areas. New Brighton Township and its residents were a tight-knit community long before its founding in 1838. As the town became official, droves of settlers and immigrants moved into the area, buying property and beginning small businesses. The history of the community reflects the morals and livelihoods of its citizens, becoming very evident during the Civil War era, where it acted as a main point along the Western Pennsylvania Underground Railroad, and later sent its men off to fight in the brutal and bloody war. Following the Civil War, another noteworthy family of historical significance from the area, the Townsend family, purchased the property formerly known as the Irish House, adding to its historic value. Later, as time moved on and the house fell under different ownerships, something is said to remain on the property to this day. It's unclear if this remnant energy is from the former inhabiting families or just the town itself living up to a moniker of living history. The past. While living in Lisbon, Ohio, Lydia and William Beck Irish raised their 4 children while making a name for themselves as prominent local business owners and devout Quakers. In 1855, following William's death, Lydia relocated with her 4 children, migrating east to the small but expanding town of New Brighton, overlooking the active Beaver River. The humble 2-story stone and brick structure sat beautifully upon a hilltop, overlooking the entirety of the town and river, and was large enough to accommodate the family of 5. The Irish family quickly made friends with other high-class residents of the area, most notably the Stantons, the Merricks, and the Townsends. In the years between the purchase of the property in 1855 and the beginning of the American Civil War in 1861, the Irish family stayed true to their Quaker religious beliefs, serving as a station along the Underground Railroad. Later in his life, the youngest of the Irish sons and statesmen, Dallas Irish, recalled hiding full families of enslaved people in their attic, and later helping these freedom seekers into carriages to Canada. The Irish family lived happily on the property until the American Civil War struck the nation, forcing 2 of the men into the deadly and brutal conflict in 1863, while the third served the state in office. As the war raged on, the upkeep and maintenance of the property proved to be too heavy a burden for Lydia and her daughter alone. As a result, in 1864, they sold the property to a family friend, William Penn Townsend, for the sum of $4,000. On the surface seeming undervalued, the Irish family believed it was a small price to pay to know their beloved home would be appreciated and cared for by the Townsends. William Townsend, another member of the upper echelon of society and owner of a rivet and wire company in the nearby town of Falston, shared a love of this property with the former owners. While he and his wife Angelina raised their family in the home, William held true to his word and did enact great change to the property. First by updating the house with top-of-the-line fixtures and elements, then by adding the visually appealing large stone wall and sidewalk constructed of slate. Following a long and happy life, William passed away inside the home in 1896. After the Townsend family sold the property, the house never truly found another long-term inhabitant. Over time, a few families and even an apartment owner sold the property from one to another. Finally, the New Brighton Historical Society took ownership of the property in 2020 and named the building the Irish Townsend House after the 2 faithful and loving families. Aside from simple cleaning and trash removal, the New Brighton Historical Society has hired inspectors for full reports of any structural or mechanical failures and put in place construction and security plans. Already since its purchase and over the course of the restoration work done so far, there have been a slew of features, original to the first iteration, deemed worth the time, cost, and effort that have already been undertaken. Paranormal experiences. Since the town of New Brighton itself is ripe with history and energy, there's no doubt that there's a strong possibility of something being left behind in the Irish Townsend House. Although there may be no direct links to the past, aside from the care and love that both the Irish and the Townsend families had for the property and the building alike, there seems to be lingering sensations and feelings which some may associate with past stories or the supernatural. While most tend to believe that paranormal activity is associated with more negative energies, tragedies, and death, this does not seem to be the case here. Rather, the energies and activity seem to stem more from love and happiness than trauma or sadness. When volunteers have been working long hours, they have reported phantom footsteps pacing the second floor, and even sometimes the quick pitter-patter of children running. They have repeatedly chased these unnatural noises to no avail. No one else was nearby, inside or outside, nor was anyone scheduled to be on site. Cold spots and mists are said to have been experienced moving about the property, but as the random passerby approaches these oddities, they disappear, leaving those who encounter these strange occurrences with more questions than answers. This has been heavily recorded outside near the stone wall, with mists almost walking alongside it, and the stairwell leading to the second floor, with cold spots disappearing at the top of the staircase. While the New Brighton Historical Society has not actively sought paranormal investigators to come onto the property, there have been some teams who have spent time here and witnessed their devices showing cold spots, spikes in their sensors, and even flashlights turning on and off. Others have actually seen full-body shadow figures in the attic area, even though this apparition has never been caught on camera. Communication and identities appear to be few and far between, ultimately not leading to anything of substance or significance, but they have been led to believe that someone is there trying to reach out and at least make their existence known. Our hope is simply to dig deeper, use past investigations as guidance, and try to communicate with anyone that is willing to speak with us and tell us their stories, which we will happily pass along and share with the New Brighton Historical Society and anyone else who may be interested in our progress and results. Initial paranormal investigation. Following our first visit, an investigation of the Irish Townsend House, through a thorough review of our captured evidence and a breakdown of our personal experiences, we believe we encountered enough oddities and unexplainable activity to consider this historic building a prime location for a heavy draw of energies and supernatural elements. With this combination, we can confidently claim the historic Irish Townsend House in New Brighton, PA, holds paranormal anomalies, mostly in the form of residual energies exuding from the original construction and expansion from the stone foundation to the original wood that was salvaged and reused during the ongoing restoration. Although our experience points us toward more residual haunting throughout the building, the Townsend Room held a different energy and overall feel. We're unsure if the recent construction has stirred these oddities up, or if there's just more focus on these tales with more people coming through the old building, but the residual activity seemed strongest when we were in the basement, Townsend Room, attic, and servant's staircase. It seemed like these phantom footsteps, knockings, and even conversations occurred at random, as if there is just so much pent-up energy here that it's being released continuously but without any rhyme or reason. The limited intelligent communication and responses were short and to the point, telling us that we were unwanted in this space, as if Mr. Townsend had no interest in speaking with us or telling more of his story.
Can you come out, speak with us?
One of the few locations that gave us an unsettling feeling, particularly at the top of the main staircase, was the basement. It's because of this that we were drawn to begin our investigation underground. Our first attempt in this area was a bit like fishing. We cast plenty of lines but had no bites. As we were moving through the first floor later in the night, we noticed the basement door, the same one nearby where we felt uncomfortable early during our walkthrough, open on its own. We ran down our reasonable explanations, but were unable to debunk or confirm this was something paranormal. We were drawn to this area again later in the night and seemed to experience some residual energies lighting up both the paralight and the REM pod. We were also able to debunk a white mist appearing only through the camera and managed to determine this was a simple trick of lighting and the human eye. We ventured to the Townsend Room, which was another of the limited areas toward which we felt a pull early on in the walkthrough. Our first session here yielded a voice that came through a simple EVP, which we are still unsure of what it truly says. Paired up with some footsteps echoing from near the servant's staircase. During this time, we also received paralight activity surrounding the original horsehair stuffed chair from the attic, which seemed to be stored energy associated with the chair as opposed to a more clearly intelligent energy. We were never certain why this energy kept alerting the Paralight, but we were able to ascertain that it was not any type of a false reading since the tool was not activated anywhere else in that room. We returned to this spot later in the evening and performed an SD's method session where we alternated between who spoke and who listened. Over the course of the SD's session, we had some strange correspondence, specifically in relation to the old chair, before the interchange took a turn. As our conversation progressed, it came to a screeching halt as we were told out.
Still waiting to hear whose chair this is.
Following this, and a change in energy in the room, there was no further communication. However, we did notice what looked like a white mist moving in and out of the doorway. This unfortunately was not captured on any type of device. This odd combination did alter our perspective and opinion on the Townsend room, making us believe that there are both residual and intelligent energies inside this room. While we don't have nearly enough evidence to support this claim, and it would be quite a leap at this point, perhaps it was even the spirit of William Townsend himself. The servants' stairwell drew us in with some unseen force and also appeared to be a heavily trafficked area, both upstairs and down. During our initial walkthrough, our guide suggested that there was possibly a servant who may remain in the area. While we came up empty-handed with any clear communication at the time, more in-depth attention during our evidential review found that we actually captured a plethora of different sounds through our static recorder, including footsteps, knockings, and banging noises as if a door was slammed shut. We were also drawn to this area by a flickering flashlight randomly turning on and off as we were in the master bedroom, so we proceeded to attempt communication via the flashlight, but to no avail. Once again, we were convinced that this is simply a main hub of residual activity, seemingly frozen in time. As our attention was temporarily drawn to the base of the servants' staircase when the flashlight turned off and on, our original plan was to move up to the attic area anyway, so this was just a minimal pit stop. After we crawled through the entry tunnel with all of our gear in tow, we attempted to just listen, which didn't amount to much, so we pushed for some more verbal communication with the Phasma box. During this period of time, we believe we captured some intelligent communication through the hearing device, as if someone was trapped or hiding in the attic and simply wanted to be left alone. When the paralight lit, we had clear communication with the words, "Light."
Was that you setting the light off?
And "It's bright, and it's blinding." Additionally, they used this medium to discuss how many times they managed to blink the light, which did match up with 3.
That was like 3.
And also discussed the chair that was removed from this area. During this time, we believe we also experienced some residual communication, as if we were overhearing past communications. There is no doubt that the overwhelming fear and anxiety that freedom seekers felt hiding in this same attic was traumatizing enough to leave trace amounts of energy remaining in the sealed area. It was towards the end of our time here when the intelligent communication continued with a simple suggestion of, "You could just leave." Even though we did not hear this at the time, we ultimately did move along. Our first investigation of the Irish Townsend House provided us with some interesting paranormal experiences and some additional captured evidence. The majority of these hauntings would be considered residual in nature, while a limited amount would be intelligent. But regardless of the type, there is an overarching sensation of being welcomed with a warm and positive feeling. There were never any moments where we felt any negativity. There were a few moments with the motion-activated devices that were visually captured, from Paralight and REM pod activity to flashlights, but the most captivating paranormal activity came from simply listening to the noises and sounds residual activity left over inside the mansion. This helped back up many of the previously documented claims, as well as led us to our conclusion of this persistent residual activity. The only intelligence we encountered, albeit brief, did occur with a combination of Estes method and spirit box, but one of the original pieces of evidence we gathered came straight through a recorder with a still undeciphered voice. Follow-up paranormal investigation. Our return to the Irish Townsend House took nearly a year, and in that time, there was a humongous and visible increase in the restoration efforts of the old mansion. These improvements include the newly discovered tin ceiling, which dates back to a local Pittsburgh-based creator of Northrop construction, as well as the newly completed front porch, incorporating historically accurate columns and freshly installed mahogany floorboards. A large painting has also been hung in the ballroom, which showcases a newly constructed town of New Brighton back in the mid-1800s with a well-known family of McConnells overlooking their factory and island. This gives visitors a wonderful idea of how the original town looked in its early form. While we did take a walkthrough and historical briefing with Mike during our follow-up investigation, we felt a little off near the basement door, as well as unsettled sensation when walking the servants' staircase. But the only interaction we had during this point of our investigation, we did hear an odd noise as we walked through the ballroom. With that, we let our recorders run as we left the property and captured some very strange footsteps, knocks, and even a heavy breath. We wanted to attempt this experiment once again, so we left 2 separate recorders running, one in the servants' staircase and one at the main staircase. The banging sounds and knocks returned once again, but this time, there were a few moments which were more intense, which sounded like someone was slamming doors and/or windows. While we did not know these occurred at the time, what we did experience in real time was a strong scent of cigar smoke, but there was no rational explanation for this, as no one was outside and no smoke could be visually spotted. This smell is reminiscent of the smell Mike shared with us during our first investigation. What's more is that the smell dissipated as we followed it to the front porch, which is the exact location where Mike caught a whiff of this strong, thick smell in the past. This guest bedroom was one of those particular areas which altered from the initial walkthrough to the actual investigation. At first, this space seemed welcoming and almost calling for us to enter and spend time here. That is until we gathered our gear and made our way up here. The first sign that something unusual was happening here is that our flashlights were drained of freshly changed batteries. Aside from these flashlights, our laser grid also dimmed on occasion just before something strange occurred. The only communication we received was a whispering voice through no device and simply through thin air. After we asked if whoever was in this space could step forward and speak with us, we heard this whisper of a response of no.
Anybody that's in this building, can you hear the sound of my voice? Can you please come and talk with us?
This was not entirely understood or even heard clearly at the time, so we proceeded onward and captured some further intelligence through the ovilus, which seemed to describe how someone died or was severely injured with river and fall, just as our sensitives felt a tightness around their necks and a heaviness on their chests.
Yeah, you know what null means? You can eat any of the energy that comes out there.
River, fall.
This drew us closer to the servants' staircase, where we continued conversation as we received further information about this lost soul, with funeral,
It's on the back.
gag, and chest. With these, our sensitives felt as though there was a little boy standing up on the landing of the staircase, and he was pictured as if he was 7 or 8 and was wearing an old white cloth shirt. The flashlights flickered, answering our yes-no questions, but as the tightness in the sensitives' chests returned and increased, we turned our attention to the room next door. While the group split in half, 2 of the investigators were drawn back here to end the night while the other half ventured down to the ballroom. At this second visit for the night, the team utilized the spirit box, but rather than opening up any further communication, this seemed to be just another way for these energies to tell us that we were not welcomed.
If you wanted to leave, you gotta tell us.
This started on a positive note, as they explained that this communication was not easy, and that we tried, but quickly took a turn as the atmosphere shifted as the group was told, "Bye now." and to please leave twice in a row.
Please, sticks.
While we tried to plead our case to communicate and stay, we were repeatedly told to vacate the premises with "go home" and "go away." This did end the evening with this second attempt. Our natural progression pulled us into the striped bedroom, as the flashlight on the far side of the room was very active, as we were situated in the stairwell just outside this space. We did manage to capture some of this flashlight activity on a handheld camera, but more miraculously, we heard the similar shuffling of footsteps that we heard during the first investigation, but this time, they seemed to be just outside this room, and either hiding in the adjoining room or running away from the group of 5 people. After they managed to provide us with further yes-no answers through the flashlight activity, we felt there was a conflict between 2 different energies, one who wanted to speak with us, whereas another just wanted to hide and for us to move along. The sensations of heaviness in the sensitives' chests continued here, and even morphed into tingling sensations felt from their feet to their shoulders to their backs. We ultimately took this as a sign to move along, but before we did, we heard the sound of a bell repeatedly in person, but this was strangely never captured on recording or video. We later learned that there is a chain in the basement which could have echoed upstairs, creating this bell-type sound. This moment was merely a duplicate in a scenario which played out during the initial investigation. This just occurred in a different location on the property, downstairs in the ballroom. This time around, we were drawn back downstairs into the smaller front parlor, but any semblance of paranormal activity ceased quickly as our attention was drawn toward the room on the opposite side of the house. The ballroom produced some odd light activity which drew our attention, but even before we could attempt any communication, we were pulled up the servants' staircase toward the attic above. This second investigation gave us further proof that there was someone present in this upstairs attic space, but was still in hiding. They seemingly wanted us to know that they were there, but that they were not interested in communicating. This communication would all be considered intelligent, and the majority of this was thanks to flashlight activity. The K2 meter also gave us a little activity, but the 2 most intriguing moments occurred when the trail camera, which was situated perfectly still for over 13 minutes, went sprawling to the floor as if pushed, as well as a pair of eyes peering out of the darkness toward the investigative group and noticed upon reviewing of the trail camera footage post-investigation. Our initial findings guided us to spend even more time trying to debunk the main basement entry door moving. It also guided us to spend time trying to pinpoint who may be hiding in the darkness of the basement. During our setup period, we managed to determine that there was no way the door could move on its own, aside from hurricane-esque winds pushing it. The door itself is very heavy, and the casing around the door is completely plumb, not allowing it to sway on its own. In addition to this, we trained a separate trail camera on the door to repeat this experiment, as well as placed motion lights down the hallway in an attempt to trace any movement leading up to it. We did not get this door to move again, leading us to believe that this was in fact a paranormal event during the first time around. What we did have occurred around this door during this second investigation, were motion lights turning on and off all around it, as well as some odd light anomalies moving in front of it. As we made our way down into the darkness of the underground basement, our goal was to attempt to find out who may still be down here. But during our setup period, as we tried to get settled in, the closet in the rear of the room gave us extremely unsettling sensations. This was so intense that neither of the sensitives wanted to approach the area, nor have their backs to it. We decided not to pursue this as it was seemingly negative, so we made our focus on the opposite side of the basement wall. But before we were able to do so, there was a strange and startling scuffling sound, which actually sent our investigators jumping backward out of the area. Unfortunately, this was not captured on any device, but all 4 investigators heard and reacted to this. Our initial thought was this was an animal, perhaps a skunk that we smelled earlier, or a cat which we noticed a few roaming the property earlier in the night. We never found any scientific reasoning for this, but persisted and attempted some type of communication. Amazingly, we recorded the name Ameline,
Right, that's the only, you can press it
and the month of January on the ovulus. This Ameline name occurred elsewhere in the building, and was actually heard verbally later on in the night. Aside from this, there was some minimal K2 meter activity, but nothing that was concrete, nor anyone who wanted to communicate, so we opted to move along. During this second investigation, We were never completely drawn to this large open space now known as the ballroom, but we did move the old chair back to this spot from its current location in the parlor to see if there was any connection to it in this room. We never received any communication telling us that, but at one point, the spirit light did shine bright after being placed on the chair, and strong enough to draw our attention toward it from across the building. With our previous interactions, we did want to spend some time here, regardless of any feeling of energy or a shift in atmosphere, but we do believe we caught up with someone here. They did not seem to be tied to the room in any way, but they seemed to be hiding in here, as half of the group was upstairs in the servants' stairwell. During this time period, we utilized the Phasma box and did in fact have some communication with this fleeting energy. Early on, we were greeted with an almost surprised hello and hi, all while questioning our motives with my story after we explained that we wanted to help tell their story.
We just want to help tell your story.
The name Ameline resurfaced here 2 additional times. Both times, though, were verbally spoken rather than via the ovulus.
Can you tell me your name, please?
Although we felt like we were getting somewhere, we were ultimately stonewalled and told in 3 different ways that we had worn out our welcome. Out, go, and now. We listened to their pleas and ultimately called it a night. Following an extensive amount of time reviewing our experiences and analyzing the captured evidence gathered during our second paranormal investigation of the Irish Townsend House overlooking the small town of New Brighton, PA, we can confidently conclude that the former mansion, in all its glory, is a host to otherworldly phenomena and holds unexplainable energies which are drawn back to this beautiful home. While we managed to add to the history and story of the paranormal activities during this second paranormal investigation, we were additionally able to confirm the experiences and evidence we gathered during our initial investigation. With this second night spent in this mansion, we thoroughly believe that we communicated with a few different intelligent energies which seemed to be able to move freely throughout the building. While these energies seem to hold certain areas on a much more personal level and even consider them their eternal homes, they were never constrained to these, but rather used multiple areas inside the building to hide and seemingly avoid our group of investigators. We did manage to capture a name of Ameline and that there was a young boy as well as another adult almost watching over this boy from the other side. We were never able to get any identities to this pair, nor their association with one another, but we did manage to figure out that they hid in the attic and simply wanted us to leave. Multiple energies appeared to be very interested in our tools, particularly the flashlights and K2 meters, just as intrigued as they were with visitors in the form of a group of 4 engaging individuals coming to speak directly with them. They seemed to be able to speak and intelligently communicate with us, but they opted not to do so, aside from strong and ultimately convincing conversation to get us to leave them alone in this area and even to leave the entire building. What we did manage to discover is that they did want to be known by more physical altercations, like moments when a camera was shoved to the ground, motion lights were activated as they stepped forward, and even phantom footsteps startling us when we were least expecting it. Our initial investigation, paired up with our sensitives, helped guide our second paranormal investigation, but there was such a strong pull or push at times that these were not even needed at particular moments. This just shows the strength of the energy still residing here, who continue to call this former mansion home. While we don't have confidence in their identities, we are confident that this second investigation has led us to believe that there are at least 4 different energies drawn to this space and who are still hiding in the dark corners to this day, which reoccurred 4 times during the night, but we never received a finite answer whether she was still here, associated with one of the energies, or had some tie to the house. We do believe this is tied to a sensation of a young girl who seemed to be present on the servants' staircase, but also had free roam of the entire building, like the ballroom. Above and beyond this, we received communication which told us there was a young boy and older man who seemed to be tied together, although there is no direct connection to one another, the property, or their identity. They did, however, want their existence to be recognized, but did not want anyone prying in their business or past. The final energy we believe we encountered was a darkness in the underground which seemed to be interested in us and our equipment, yet very territorial and did not want anyone in their space. Just as it was during our first investigation of the Irish Townsend House, we are very humbled to be welcomed into this historic mansion with so much undiscovered and undocumented hidden history that is ultimately vital to the existence of the home and even the town of New Brighton, PA. We cannot put our gratitude and thanks into words, as it means so much to us for the New Brighton Historical Society to open the mansion's doors to us and trust us with the mansion's history and unseen occupants. Much like the organization's goal, our true purpose for investigating properties like the Irish Townsend House is to help keep history alive and build upon what we already know. No matter how much of the past is documented, we've learned that there is still so much more for us to discover or rediscover. Our intent is to share our evidence and experiences with the community as a whole, so future generations can continue to uncover the past and build upon our findings, the Historical Society's documentation and restoration process, and keep the names and actions of the Irish and Townsend families alive and well and available to all. With the new addition of the Irish Townsend home being listed on the National Register of Historical Places, hopefully grant money and funds will find their way to this property as the Historical Society expands their restoration efforts. Even still, the group and community can use as much support as possible, and with that being said, if you enjoyed this investigation or just the preservation of lesser-known historical locations, please consider making a donation. No matter how small, every penny counts to the New Brighton Historical Society, and in particular, the Irish Townsend House. We have attached the direct link below if you feel so inclined. As always, thank you for listening. You can find our full report and original evidence linked in the description. You can also find a full archive of our past investigations as well as a link to our merch on our website at www.ironcityparanormal.org. Please consider finding and following us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Etsy, all linked below. If you enjoyed this investigation, please consider liking and commenting on this video and subscribing to our channel so you don't miss out on our next investigation.